As one, Alvin, Rafe, and Azizu dropped to the floor. With a terrified cry, Professor Jung's neighbor joined them as another bullet slammed into the aviary. More bullets whined through the air. The ceiling exploded in a cloud of splintered glass. Shards of broken glass cascaded to the floor and sprinkled like glittering rain into the bags. I'm going to call the police, shouted the neighbor furiously. He was getting to his feet, but Rafe gripped his arm. Stay down, Rafe warned. If you stand up, you'll be an easy target for whoever's out there. The neighbor's eyes swept around the scene of destruction. Fear and anger struggled on his face. This is outrageous, he blasted. This used to be a decent place to live. There should be a law against this kind of thing. I'm sure there is, Alvin responded grimly. But try telling that to the man with the gun. It was as though the gunman had hurt him. Another round of gunfire sent bullets slicing through the air and smashing into the walls of the house. Then there was silence. After a minute, Azizu heard a car speeding off in the distance. I think we should get out of here, he suggested urgently. Just in case he comes back to finish us off. Great thinking, Azizu, agreed Alvin. Keeping low their shoes, crunching across the sea of glass, they raced for safety of the house. As they moved, dozens of fine glass splinters showered to the ground from their clothes. Can we help you home, sir? Rafe asked the neighbor politely. The man was dusting himself down with quivering hands. I'll be okay, he snapped. But I'll tell you something. If I ever see Julius Young again, I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. The boys made their way down the drive as Alvin called Sergeant Sue on his mobile phone and made his report. The sergeant's voice blasted in his ear. Alvin, didn't I tell you to not get involved? You could have got yourself killed. You're off the case. Alvin winced as though he'd been hit. As he thought quickly. But Sergeant Sue, he said pleasantly, we just wanted to tell Professor Young we were resigning from the investigation, that's all. You could have done that by phone, Sergeant Sue bellowed. Now please wait out there. Don't leave. I'm sending out a patrol car and our ballistics people. Alvin killed the car with a grunt. Shouldn't you have told him about the snake? Rafe queried. Tell him what? Alvin argued. It's just our theory. We don't have any concrete facts to prove it. As soon as we know for sure the snake is behind all this, then we'll tell Sergeant Sue. I don't know who Alvin's more worried about. Azizu nudged Rafe. The snake or Sergeant Sue? Suddenly he put hand on his cap and glanced at Alvin. It had to be the snake's man shooting at us, right? They must have followed us here from headquarters. But we can't prove it, Alvin stopped by the gate. Sergeant Sue wants us to wait till his men arrive. We can't, argued Azizu. We have to find the professor's friend. What was his name? Someone called Tom at the university. I think we have to talk to him as soon as possible. He might know where Professor Young is. Then Rafe froze. I just thought of something. If the snake's men did follow us from the headquarters, they could also be watching the doors. We better warn them not to go out, Alvin agreed. But when he tried to call Wei Ling and then Mars and Sinchita, there was no answer. No mobile phones, cameras, or bags are allowed in the nuclear physics department. The security guard had told the girls when they entered the university. You have to surrender them here. But the boys won't know where we are, Wei Ling frowned. Good, snapped Mars. It'll do them good to worry about us for a change. The guard placed their phones and bags in a locker before escorting them down a long corridor to the office of Professor Aloysius Tam. Sinchita looked at the groups of students with serious faces who passed by. Some were weighed down with piles of lecture pads and thick textbooks. I want to come here and study one day, she told her friends. But you hate physics, said Mars. I want to study law, Sinchita laughed. When they were shown into Tam's office, they discovered a man of about the same age as Professor Zheng. He looked like a startled bird, with his eyes starting about warily behind a pair of heavy spectacles. I'm very busy, he scowled. The office said you wanted to talk to me about nuclear physics for your school newspaper. Mars got straight down to business. She pulled up a chair and met his gaze firmly. Professor Tam, we know you're a friend of Professor Julius Zheng, and we think you might be able to help in our investigation. Professor Tam's manner changed. He leapt up. Who are you? He demanded angrily. We work with Alvin So, said Wei Ling. We are detectives. Professor Zheng came to see us when his ego was stolen. Tam seemed to relax. I see. He resumed his seat with a sigh. The ego. Have you seen it lately? Sinchita quizzed him. It's his pride and joy, Tam remarked lightly, trying to evade her question. Did you know it came from Alaska? He thought a fisherman shouted. You see, the eagles in Alaska eat a lot of fish, and the fishermen believe they are a great threat to the salmon population. Well, to tell you the truth, Mars interrupted, we are more worried about someone shooting Professor Zheng. Mars saw surprise flat Tam's face, but it didn't look genuine, she thought. Her suspicion deepened. Now why would anyone want to harm Julius? The professor hedged with a nervous laugh. Someone knocked him out last night when they searched his house. Wei Ling informed him. What do you think they were looking for, Professor? Tam glanced down at his desk. I'm sure I have no idea. A hostile edge crept into his voice. Now if you don't have a real question about nuclear physics, I'm afraid I have to get back to my work. Professor Tam was a bad liar, Mars concluded. Why don't you tell us the truth? She demanded. Is Professor Zheng in danger? Of course not, Tam snapped. I haven't seen Julius for a long time. Now I think you should all leave. If you don't, I'll call the security people. An urgent knock on the door brought Tam to his feet. A moment later, Alvin, Rafe, and Azizu hurried into the office. When the boys saw Mars, Wei Ling, and Sinchita, their jaws dropped. What are you doing here? Rafe asked coldly. How did you know about Professor Tam? We're detectives, remember? Mars countered with icy sarcasm. She turned back to Tam. Do you think Professor Zheng really stole the money in America? She probed. What money? Gasped Alvin in surprise. What are you talking about? Mars handed him the photocopy of the newspaper article. Professor Tam watched in stony Silence. As the boys read the story, Alvin looked up curiously. I'm Alvin So, he introduced himself. Professor Zhang asked me and my investigators for help. For your information, Professor Tam, we're just down from his home, where someone tried to shoot us. Tam's face paled. That's not all, Azizu continued. One of the neighbors told us that you were at their house earlier this morning, supervising the movers who took away all of Professor Zhang's furniture and his birds. Rafe folded his arms across his chest. So we think you have a lot of explaining to do.